and as you see, it was pretty banging noise, and the off-balance top loader could be seen here easily. First step in this process is to remove the washer drum frame and make sure that you have shut off the water supply and the power, disconnected the power. To remove this top panel, you have to remove these two screws. Once these two screws are removed, this panel can be removed very easily. So that is the first part. Then we have to remove this top panel, top lid basically, by removing those two screws. Then disconnect this LED switch, which will allow us to take out this panel completely and deattach it from the frame. And this, so once this is done, we have to remove this front panel, and for front panel there are two screws on the left and right side. So once you removed, just disconnect it. And these are the plumbings which we have to disconnect before we remove the frame from the body. So, and this is the ground wire we have to remove using the screws. And lastly, disconnect the plumbing pipe. So I removed this washer, and it is now sitting in our garage. Basically, I just want you to get familiar with the different parts of this washer and what we are going to replace in this particular washer. So as you see over here, this is the front side of this entire assembly line, and this is the spring which I was referring to, this spring basically. So you will find there are three springs like this on which this entire drum is sitting. So this is the first spring, and if you go on the back side, there are two more springs are there. So this is the second one, and this is the third one. In addition to these three springs, there is one more spring is there, that is this particular spring, and this one is the counterbalance spring, right? And as you see that it is kind of corroded, but it is not that bad, it is still stiff. But if I just push this machine little bit, and as you see that it is kind of a wobbly, it is not sturdy. Of course there will be some kind of a spring motion as expected on this machine, but not this much. And particularly during the spinning cycle, when it moves erratically, and it is going to touch these sides, this side and this side on the casing, making that large banging noise. So the simplest solution for this one is order the springs. These are like 80-90 bucks on the Amazon or on the different websites. I will put those links in the description. So order those springs. Don't replace one spring and keep the older one as is. Replace the three sets of spring all at once, and in addition to this, replace this counterbalance spring also, which is very important. Now when I was inspecting this entire spring, body, what I found is that if you look at this one, so if I push this and push it little bit, and as you see, the spring came out. So definitely this one is the broken spring. This is not happening for this particular spring, but anyway I'm going to replace all these three springs. Now to replace these three springs, it's very easy. You have to open this nut, this one. I've already opened this one using the this wrench, 19 or A1 wrench. Basically it goes like this, and if you just rotate it anti-clockwise, it will just remove, and then this entire assembly will come out. This you have to rotate, and this will come. I will cover that once I have the new springs, and the same thing you have to do it for the other springs also. Once everything is done, you just this is a good idea to just paint this entire frame, so that there won't be any kind of a rusting or anything. and that's pretty much what is required to replace the entire thing. You could also do one more thing, that once you remove all these three springs, you could also just inspect all the parts which are underneath this drum, just to make sure that nothing else is broken. In my case, I already inspected it, it is not broken, and everything is good. If I want, I can just remove this cover and clean this drum also, but I'm not going to go that far. Just going to replace the springs and see that whether that solves the problem. So the parts which I ordered from the website, they arrived, and as you see over here, this is a new set of spring. Looks similar to the same one, and as you see, this is kind of a sturdy, whereas if you see, this one is kind of a wobbly and gone out of and that's why the machine was banging during the spinning cycle. Same thing is applicable with these three springs. All of them are kind of a sturdy, which is good part. And then in addition to that, the whatever the this counterbalance spring I ordered, that one is also kind of a sturdy, since it is new. So that also we are going to add. And then in addition to this, in the package I received this thread lock, right, which we have to use over there at the bottom. So we will do that one. But before that, first I'm going to remove this first spring, and then I will complete the same cycle for the other two springs also. So this Loctite threaded locker, it came with the parts. So I'm just, as you see over here, this came with the part. I'm just going to snap this one and pour something on the part, which is this one. Something like this, not too much, just little bit. And then just start threading this one. And once it is tight, pass this through this hole and use the removed nut to thread this part.
Done. I'll repeat the process for other two springs, and then we'll install the counterbalance spring. So I had no issues with removing first spring, but second spring it was not coming out. So I used the hand saw and just cut that nut, and as you see over here, it just came out. And another part is that because of the banging, this particular threads which used to have over here, those are gone. So basically, if I have to attach this one to if I have to attach this to this plate, I have to put the bolt nut from the bottom to enforce this particular spring to the plate. And I think I have to do the same thing for that plate also, because that spring also, because this spring is also not coming out. So I'm just going to cut this spring too. So the first spring came out very nicely, but not the other two springs. So I just cut them out. So this is what I am going to do. So this spring will go on the plate, and this bolt will be used will be tightened on that particular plate using the nut. So this will be this is what I'm planning to do. Let me show you here. So this is the spring which will go here, right? And then from the other side, I'll just use the bolt to tighten this spring. So spring will be attached to this plate like this from this hole, and then it will be tightened using this bolt. So it will be a permanent fix over there. So with this, let me attach all these three springs, and then we will assemble the drum. Okay, let me show you what else I have done. So basically, I just use the cans metallic black color to paint this entire surface plate, and now it looks good. And as I mentioned earlier, I've attached all the three springs to the holes, and for the one which I've already cut the old springs, for those holes I've used the nut to enforce to permanently fix them like this. So they are pretty nice now, and both the springs are attached to the frame. This is not required actually. In my case, unfortunately the threads were gone, so I have no option but to do this way. If you see the front spring, it was, the threads were intact, so I was able to thread the first spring without any problem. But that is not the case with two springs which are on the back side of this frame. Now all these springs are attached, and as you see, they are not wobbly, they are very nice and sturdy. Now only thing what I have to do is basically take the drum and place it over here, attach the new counterbalance spring, which I will show you in a bit, and that's it. We are ready to attach this frame to the washing machine. And now the drum and frame has been assembled, and it is now ready to install on the main dryer washer, and we will take it to the dryer washer area, and basically a couple of bolts we have to attach the way we have removed it, and that's it. We are pretty much done. Let me show you how sturdy it is now after attaching those springs. Look at this one, it is not even moving, so it is going to be very sturdy, and we solved the problem, I can tell you right away. And over here, these are the things which I was showing you. This is how I've attached the counterbalance spring, the first spring, then the nut as usual, and you have to make sure that these pipes are attached, and basically this is the second spring. All of them are tight now, and hardly it is moving basically, so it's pretty sturdy. So it just now we will attach it and assemble it on the dryer washer unit, and we'll run a cycle to see that how it works. One thing I forgot to cover, this particular springs or shock absorbers, they come with self-tapping screws, as you see over here. So what I've done is basically once all the shock absorbers are connected, use those screws, self-tapping screws, and insert them over here. The reason why they gave this shock absorber, these self-tapping screws, is basically when the motor rotates or the drum rotates, it is not going to rotate this particular base, and it will remain in place. So that is just one additional thing. If you don't do it, that's okay, but it is always good to do it. So I forgot to cover that when I was doing this repair. this.